Horse feeds and supplements developed by Kentucky Equine Research are research tested and race proven. For over 30 years, top trainers and veterinarians have relied on science, technology, and products from Kentucky Equine Research to fuel top performance from the breeding shed to the sales ring and the track. Look for KER products and learn more at KER.com. Kentucky Equine Research, world leaders in equine nutrition.
And welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm your host, Stan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. The Breeders' Cup is creeping ever closer. 3 major prep races on tap from coast to coast. Daily Racing Form handicapper Brad Free takes an in-depth look at the Grade 1 Awesome again at Santa Anita, featuring Medina Spirit. Craig Milkowski and David Aragona take a peek at Nick's Go's final prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic, that in the Lucas Classic at Churchill Downs, and Mike Beer and I will take a peek at the Woodward Stakes at Belmont Maxfield against a strong field. Those horses prepping for the Breeders' Cup as well. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Picks segment focuses on the Champagne, and that segment is presented by Kentucky Equine Research. We're all in line. Let's break Out of the Gate. The DRF race of the day for Saturday, October the 2nd, race number 10 at Belmont Park. Let's throw up the field for a major Breeders' Cup prep race. It's the Grade 1 Woodward. We're going a 1-turn mile and an eighth. $500,000 is the purse. You can download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them and handicap along with us. Maxfield, Mike, one of the better handicap horses in the country. Blinkers on today.
Yeah, I guess he is one of the better older horses in the country, Dan. I still feel like he's a horse who has, plenty to prove out there, especially when you talk about Grade 1 races. But I guess, the way that this division is shaping up, he's one of the top ones.
And we'll throw up the time form U.S. pace projector. Mo Gotcha, the number 4, is a big long shot. He does have speed, but Art Collector has really come back firing for Bill Mott when he can get close to the pace. I think Art Collector's got to try to take this away from Mo Gotcha. And if not, he'd be happy just sitting outside of Mo Gotcha and ready to pounce if that one, falls apart at the far turn.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Mo Gotcha could, prove to be a nice target for somebody in here. It's hard to see him winning the race, whether he goes or not. I do think both of Bill Mott's horses perhaps will go forward in here. I think Art Collector makes the lead. I also think Forza Dioro goes forward and maybe sits right up close.
Dr. Post, second in the Belmont Stakes last year, third in the Haskell. He's run some nice races. Won the Monmouth Cup 2 starts back, a race where he got some pace and a very nice situation. What happened last time out in the Pacific Classic? Because it looked like this horse lost all interest on the backstretch, dropped completely out of it, and then was running on too late.
Yeah, that's how I looked at the race too, Dan. I don't know what to make of that. In some ways, it makes me feel like the Pacific Classic just wasn't a very good race because, as you've already noted, this horse around the final turn of that race just dropped all the way back to last, like he wasn't going to run at all. And then he rallied for third. Now, listen, at the end of the day, it was a no-threat third. He just wound up picking up some pieces there and getting up for third at the end of the race. I don't know what to do with them. I feel like, this is the kind of field where he can be competitive at a fair price, Dan, but he's another horse. And, I just don't know how good he is. His 2 wins when he came so far this year, they got good figures, but neither one of them did a lot for me.
Maxfield, the number 2, your morning line favorite, never off the board from 9 lifetime starts, but seeking his first Grade 1 win since the Breeders' Futurity as a 2-year-old. Let's watch the Whitney at Saratoga, his most recent start, and Nick's Go just shook loose on them and never stopped running. Maxfield was on the outside on the backstretch. I liked what Jose Ortiz did. He didn't go around. He was able to angle to the inside to split horses, and that might have saved him the place.
It might have. I thought he ran fine in here. Nick's Go was obviously much the best, opening up the clear lead on the backstretch and then, having plenty left still in the stretch. This horse was wide on the second turn before he angled in, though. I thought all in all, Dan, he was clearly second best. I thought he ran fine. He's still not a horse who I have a really good idea, I don't think, of, how good he actually is. I still think there's a chance he's pretty good, but he's got a lot to prove still.
Art Collector has run some fast races in his career. He won the Bluegrass last year. As I mentioned, he's now 2 for 2 for Bill Mott, including this victory in the Charlestown Classic, and he has shown speed in both starts for Mott. Now, it paid to be close to the pace at Charlestown on Classic evening. Art Collector did get close, and he's able to draw off late. Stereo 103 buyers for his last 2 starts. It puts him in the mix.
They certainly do. We'll see what he can. What happens here as he steps up in class to face some better horses, Dan. I don't know. I personally speaking, I'm not sold on this horse yet. He's looked pretty good in his 2 starts for Mott. I guess they're both 9 furlong races. He's 4 for 4 over this distance. I guess that's a good thing, and he does have speed. I don't know. I'm just not really blown away by his last 2 races. He's 3-1 on the line. No, thank you.
Longest shot on the boards, the 4 Mo Gotcha. Let's give these connections some credit. They took a shot. They claimed the source for 40. They ran him in the Grand Prix American Jockey Club, stretching him all the way out to 13 furlongs. He ran okay. Let's watch that effort right now. He showed good early speed in this race. The horse to beat, Lone Rock, did not fire at 1-9, and Mo Gotcha got a stakes placing. That being said, he is taking on way tougher field in this race. Maybe we'll see a little bit of early pace.
Yeah, maybe he just goes forward in this race. It's another nice trip and gets a piece. Again, it's just hard to see him winning this race. His recent form is actually fine, but the 2 wins, the last 2 wins up at Saratoga were against $40,000 claimers.
Code of Honor, the number 5, is obviously a dangerous contender. This horse won the Travers in 2019. He always seems to do his best running at Belmont Park. Let's watch the Island, though. Last time out at Monmouth, it was his first race off an 8-month layoff. He made a mid-race move to command, and he draws away under Paco Lopez. 105 Buyers speed figures showing no rust off the layoff, and he beat a couple of minor next out winners.
Yeah, I mean, he got a great trip in this race. And the way I look at the race, he just did what he was supposed to do. He's better than these horses. He got a perfect trip, and he wins very easily. I'm not going to knock this horse. He obviously has plenty of back races that would make him tough in here. I guess you could look at his 4-year-old campaign last year, Dan, and just be really disappointed in it because, his Westchester off the layup was really good, I thought. And I actually thought his Met Mile was really good as well, even though he didn't win. After that, I don't know. His races were a little bit disappointing. So he's another one who I'm not sure where I stand on him right now, even with the 105 last time. And he's 5-2 on the line. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that? I think he can win. I don't know if I want to bet him.
Mott has Art Collector. He also has the 6, Forza de Oro, coming off this 3rd place effort in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. But keep in mind, this is only his 2nd start off of a very lengthy layoff. He made the lead in here as the favorite. Just no match for Max Player, who is much improved ever since he found his tactical speed. I don't think there's any shame in Forza de Oro running 3rd to a horse like Max Player at this point in his career, although he really had no excuses on the lead.
Exactly. This was not a fast pace, and Max Player sat right up there with him, and this was no contest through the final furlong. The flip side of that, I suppose, then is certainly what you were, sort of alluding to. Second off of a very long layoff, he's still very lightly raced. Plus, it was 1.25 miles, and who's to say this horse wants to go 1.25 miles? He's cutting back to 1.1 miles here. I think that could work for him. He was favored that time. He's going to be a much better price this time. I ultimately didn't put him on top, but I thought about it. I think he can win.
And I think the key to this race is breaking from the outside post. Junior Alvarado is going to let the speed go, whether it's his stablemate Art Collector, whether it is the 4-horse, whether it's someone else down towards the inside, and perhaps try to revert to the tactics, the rating tactics that worked so well for him earlier in his career. Let's take a look at our top pick for the Grade 1 Woodward. I don't really think Maxfield needs the blinkers. I think he's pretty good without them. I liked his win in the Foster 2 starts back. And I thought, as Mike said, he ran just fine against Nick Sko last time out. It just seems like a nice spot for him. Code of Honor, though, I'm a little bit concerned about.
Yeah, more than anything else, that's how I looked at it too. I just think it's a good spot for Maxfield. I don't love him in here. If he's some kind of, crazy short price, if they go overboard on him, I could easily bet against this horse in here. I just didn't love anyone in here. I put him on top. Again, I thought about putting Forza de Oro up there, and if he's the right price, maybe I'll wind up betting him. It's an interesting race. I just don't love anyone.
2561 for Mike, 2536 for me. We'll see if Maxfield gets his first Grade 1 since the Breeders' Futurity as a 2-year-old in the Grade 1 Woodward at Belmont on Saturday. Good luck.
Race 10 on an 11-race card Saturday at Santa Anita. 5 graded stakes on Saturday at Santa Anita, by the way, and a couple of really good ones toward the end of the card. Race 10 is the Grade 1 Awesome Again, 1 1/8 on the main track, and this is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And I guess what we're going to find out is who gets to walk the plank, so to speak, in the Breeders' Cup Classic against the likes of Nick's Go, Essential Quality, Max Player, and even Hot Rod Charlie. Those are the 4 early favorites for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And maybe somebody will step up in the Awesome Again on Saturday and, give those 4 top Breeders' Cup Classic choices a battle in the Breeders' Cup in early November at Del Mar. We're going to find out a little bit more about the West Coast Handicap Division in the Awesome Again. It's race number 10. Let's go ahead and take a look at the field of 8 that will race 1 1/8. And there are some good horses in this field. I'm surprised to see Midcourt in the field. I was told by his connections that he had gotten sick a week ago and was not going to run, but there he is in the entries. And Midcourt is an interesting horse because he does have speed and he does have a speed rider aboard, but he also will be racing without Lasix, and he's a horse that in the past has required Lasix. At any rate, that's the backstory on Midcourt. Tis a Magician. I'm not sure if 1 1/8 is his right trip. Express Train, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Stiletto Boy, Medina Spirit, he's still the Kentucky Derby winner. Azul Coast, Tripoli has improved since switching to dirt. He won the Pacific Classic. And Idol, we haven't seen since he won the Santa Anita Handicap way back in March. He's using the Awesome Again as a prep. He'll be finishing, and if he runs well, it'll be on to the Breeders' Cup. But he might not be at his best first start since March. Okay, I like a horse in here, but I've liked him all year, and he doesn't always deliver because he's a horse that can only run well when he gets his trip. Express Train is not a horse that will overcome trouble, but when he gets his front-running, pace-pressing type of trip in the clear, forwardly placed, he can run with any handicap horse in California. Express Train was actually the favorite in the Pacific Classic, and he never had a chance. And the reason I say that, well, you be the judge. Let's take a look at the first 3 furlongs of the Pacific Classic at Del Mar. Express Train breaking from post position number 5 in the yellow and purple silks of CRK. Okay, he breaks fine. He's forwardly placed. He's okay right here. He could use a little bit more enterprising ride, I believe. I think it would be in jockey Juan Hernandez's best interest to push this horse up toward the lead, because right now he's going to get into a jackpot. And watch what happens to poor Express Train going into the turn. Things get a little bit tight. The horse to his inside drifts out. Express Train takes up right there, and that is the end of that. Express Train is a front runner / pace presser. He's not going to take back and come around. His weapon is his tactical speed. And when he gets that front running, pace pressing type trip, like I said earlier, he's as good as any horse in California. But he didn't get that trip last time out. So I'm going to give Express Train a pass for his misfire in the Pacific Classic and assume that he gets back on track, that Hernandez gives him a little bit more ambitious ride early and puts him into the race and avoids trouble. Now, it's not going to be easy because likely front runner Medina Spirit is drawn to his outside. So I expect Medina Spirit to make the lead, and I'm hoping that Hernandez can get to the outside of Medina Spirit on Express Train. And if he does, he'll have every chance to win this race. Tripoli, by the way, won the Pacific Classic. We're going to talk about him right now. As a matter of fact, he's a Kitten's Joy, and you wouldn't think that a Kitten's Joy would improve switching to dirt, but that's exactly what he did. I'm talking about the Pacific Classic winner, Tripoli, who came to hand this spring or earlier this year at Santa Anita, and he delivered on his promise last time out with a solid win in the Pacific Classic. Let's roll the tape on the stretch run of the Pacific Classic. This was kind of a weird race. We saw Express Train get wiped out early. Tis a Magician's on the lead and on the inside, and Tripoli pressing the pace to his outside. The race was bizarre because it was dominated by the two front runners and nobody made up any ground except that horse rolling late. That's Dr. Post, who finishes very well. But the Pacific Classic was a front runners dominated type of race. Conditions were made to order for Tripoli, and he was good enough to deliver it. I'm not knocking Tripoli. I'm just pointing out that he had the type of trip that I think most people would have preferred Express Train to get. The race was dominated by speed. Nobody made up any ground. The 1-2 front runners finished 2-1, and Tripoli delivered. Now, Tripoli is trained by John Sadler, and Sadler could easily have skipped the Awesome Again and just trained Tripoli into the Breeders' Cup. Sadler can get a horse ready off a layoff. Why is Tripoli in the Awesome Again? It's because he is doing so well. Sadler figures, why not run him? He's a racehorse. Run him. Tripoli commands respect. He is good right now. He gets over the Santa Anita surface very well, and he will be a contender, no doubt about it. Okay, what do you do with Idle? Idle hasn't started since March. Let's go ahead and look at the Santa Anita Handicap stretch run, a race in which Express Train makes the lead. Looks like he might be home free, but Idle, ridden for the first time in this race by Joel Rosario, Idle at 1 1/4 wore him down. Idle was coming in off a couple of tough trip losses under a different jockey, but with Rosario aboard, boy, there's Express Train running his heart out. But Idle at 1 1/4 wears him down in deep stretch. Now, Idle had a setback. He went to the farm. He took some time off. This is his first start since March. Baltus is not sure. Well, he kind of suggested that he does not have Idle all the way cranked for a winning effort first start back. He also said, Baltus did, that sometimes these horses will surprise you. Idle is a good horse. Of course he is. He won the Santa Anita Handicap. But he's coming in off a long layoff, and he'll be ridden by Joe Bravo, who's never been on Idle before. And I would expect Idle to finish well. Hey, maybe he springs an upset and gets there first. But I would expect Idle to run well, finish well, and improve next time out in the Breeders' Cup Classic down at Del Mar. Okay, who's the pace going to be set by in the Awesome Again? Probably by the horse who won the Kentucky Derby in May. Of course, a cloud hangs over Medina Spirit, but he came back to form last time out in the Shared Belief Stakes at Del Mar. It was not a great field. He did defeat Rock Your World. Let's take a look at the stretch run of the Shared Belief. And Medina Spirit made the lead, and he was long gone. He wired the field. This is how Medina Spirit runs. He makes the lead. That's Rock Your World back in second on his wrong lead, kind of grinding away. But Medina Spirit, he is tough when he makes the front, and he is a bulldog in the stretch. Medina Spirit is a front runner, but he's not a front running stopper. He's a front runner who digs in and fights back when he gets hooked. Medina Spirit, one could argue he's the most likely winner of the Awesome Again. But I hope that Express Train, if he can get to the outside of Medina Spirit and apply pressure from the outside in the clear, I think Medina Spirit can wear down, Express Train can wear down likely pace setter Medina Spirit. I don't know what to do with Midcourt in this race. I'm not convinced he's a confirmed starter. But if he does, he will have something to say about the pace scenario, and all of a sudden you have 3 front runners, Midcourt, Express Train, and Medina Spirit. So stay tuned and see if Midcourt actually does start. But regardless, I think that Express Train is in the right spot to make amends if he gets a trip. He cannot overcome trouble, Express Train can't. But when he gets his trip, he's as good as anybody in California. We saw him finishing second in the Big Cap against Idle. He's a 2-time graded stakes winner this year, Express Train is. He ran second in the highly rated Malibu back in December. He's a good horse when he fires with his front-running trip. If he gets it this weekend, Saturday at Santa Anita, I expect Express Train to win the Awesome Again. Race 10 on Saturday.
For this week's pedigree analysis presented by our friends at Kentucky Equine Research, let's go to the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes at Belmont Park. This one-turn mile matches up Gunite and Wit, who were 1-2 in the Hopeful, along with impressive Saratoga maiden winners My Prankster and Jack Christopher. Now, to me, this race goes through Gunite, who's a horse I've always thought highly of. He's from the first crop of Horse of the Year Gun Runner, who was a hickory horse who just got better the more he ran and the farther he went. Gunite appears just made in that mold. He has speed that he can carry. He's already making his 6th career start. He turned in his best performance to date in the Hopeful at 7 furlongs, easily holding off Wit, as you'll watch. I see no reason he can't add another furlong and then some. Now, My Prankster is by classic sire Into Mischief, who was knocking at the door for a couple of years before Authentic broke through for him in the 2020 Derby. And Wit is by Into Mischief's son, Practical Joke. Now, Practical Joke was unbeaten around one turn, including a win in the Champagne, but he could dig in and carry on, earning some Grade 1 placings around 2 turns. I think there will be a question about his offspring going much longer than this, but I think the mile is well within Wit's scope, and I actually very much like this one-turn mile for this colt. He has a tendency to break a little poorly, and he'll now have that whole mile, including the long run into the single turn, to make up for any trouble he creates for himself. Jack Christopher turned in one of the most impressive wins by a maiden at the Saratoga meet with this victory on Traverse Day. He is the horse whose ability to go a distance I question the most of this quartet. He's by Munnings, who has sired some route winners. Of course, I'm a Chatterbox comes to mind. But Munnings was a sprinter, and you've crossed him over a half-hour's mare here, another speedy horse. And the mare herself is a half to Grade 1 winning sprinter Street Boss. Going one turn, Jack Christopher may be able to step up here, but I do question if he's a Breeders' Cup juvenile horse. Of course, this race, a prep for that about 5 weeks out at Del Mar. You can now find coverage of every Breeders' Cup division at DRF.com. For now, let's take a closer look at this weekend's Lucas Classic, a prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic for some, here on DRF TV.
Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Craig Mulkowski, and we are taking a look at a Breeders' Cup prep that will be taking place on Saturday at Churchill Downs. It is the Grade 3 Lucas Classic, going 1 1/8 miles on their main track there, and this one is going to feature a heavy favorite. 2 to 5 on the morning line is the number 2 Knicks Go, and Craig, he looks right now like one of the leading contenders for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and this just looks like it's going to be a public workout for him. That's how they're orchestrating it. He's really not facing a horse that's in the same league as him in this race.
No, not at all. And I don't think this race is going to tell us a whole bunch. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about the Breeders' Cup Classic later on, but it just looks like there isn't a whole lot of competition for him either earlier in the race or later on. So I fully expect him to just canter around the track and win pretty easily, but I do think there's some things worth discussing in here.
Yeah, let's talk about a few of the contenders in this race. Before we get started, let's take a look at the field for this race as we throw up these 6 runners. And you see 2 to 5 on the morning line is the number 2 Knicks Go. The only other horse at single digits is the number 3 Tacitus at 5 to 2. The others are all very big prices in this race. We'll see how the public bets this one, but no doubt Knicks Go is going to be a heavy favorite when all is said and done. As for the Timeform US pace projector, Knicks Go has a ton of early speed, so no surprise to see him out depicted on the front end.
No, it would be hard to imagine him not getting the lead. It would almost be like something had to go very wrong. Either he just doesn't break out of the gate or, it's hard to say, but it's a virtual cinch that he's going to be the early leader in here.
There were some doubts about Knicks Go going back to the start of the year when he threw in that clunker in the Saudi Cup and then lost as the odds-on favorite after that and his return to the U.S. in the Met Mile. But over his last couple starts, he's just looked invincible once again when he won the Cornhusker, and then last time out when he won the Grade 1 Whitney at Saratoga. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. He's beating a pretty good field here as Swiss Skydiver took a shot at him. Maxfield's going to be running after him in the stretch of this race, but Knicks Go went fast early, got a bit of a breather on the far turn, and then kicked away in the stretch again.
Yeah, there's no doubt. He went pretty fast. It's not like he was handed the lead in here. The pace fractions were 130s. He's proven to be able to go faster than that a few times in his career. So no surprise here. Maybe a little bit of concern how he drifted out there. Maybe I don't know if it was so much a tactical decision as it was the horse. Maybe it was the former, so it's not a big deal. But really, that's the only thing I saw in here that gave me the slightest concern.
And Craig, I know you're highlighting in his past performances here in Timeform US, just the sheer number of speed figures that he's run that are 130 and above. If you're not familiar with Timeform US speed figures, 130 is a grade 1 level horse that's usually dominant in their division. And Nixco has run a 130 or higher multiple times since he's come into the Brad Cox barn.
Yeah, exactly. Since he switched to the Brad Cox barn, especially at 2 turns, his lone not very good race at Belmont Park in the Met Mile, he didn't run very well, even though he made the lead. I believe that Saudi Cup was also 1 turn, if I'm not mistaken. But stateside around 2 turns, he's been unbeatable. He's won all 6 of his starts, and none of them have been particularly close. And as you say, when you're running in the 130s, you're almost always winning here in the U.S. Very few horses have consistently run faster than him over the last 10 years even. So this is a distance he's proven to be able to handle. So he's obviously just head and shoulders above this group on paper.
Yeah, I think we agree. Given the pace advantage, given his class edge, his speed figure power, he's unlikely to lose this race. But is there anybody that you can get underneath him, perhaps in an exacta, to create some value here? Because the other horse that I know you wanted to highlight, Craig, the number 4, Shared Sense, he's coming out of a pretty game victory at Ellis Park as we take a look at his win last time in the Tri-State.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Shared Sense. He was a horse who had won a couple decent races. He won the Oklahoma Derby here at my local track, Remington Park, with decent speed figures. And he closed out his season with a good third in the Discovery behind horses like Forza Dioro, Monday Morning Quarterback, who I don't think we've seen since, but who was a pretty talented horse. His return to the races this year wasn't so good. He ran in a small stakes at Indiana Downs, didn't really fire that day, but his second start off the layoff at Ellis Park was really nice in what they called the Tri-State Overnight Stakes. A very small stakes race, but I think it showed he has plenty in the tank. He had a 115 speed figure that day, final time 119. It was knocked down a little bit for pace, but I just like the visual. And given some of the alternatives in here who are going to take some money, namely Tacitus and Independence Hall, I'm going to play some exactas with him instead of those 2.
I guess I'm not shocked that you're giving a shout out to last year's Oklahoma Derby winner, but he did look good winning that race. And he's got some upside in a race where I feel like we've already seen the best of a lot of horses in here. Ones like Chess Chief and Sprawl, perhaps even Tacitus and Independence Hall. We basically know what they are at this point. And maybe Shared Sense is a 4-year-old that still has some upside towards the end of the season as the other Brad Cox trainee in this race. And we're kind of on the same page about Tacitus, who is the other horse that's predicted to take money on the morning line. I know, Craig, you wanted to highlight his work pattern coming into this race because it's been a little bit erratic.
Yeah, it has been. He was a horse who he laid off after running overseas in that same Saudi Cup that I mentioned earlier. And he was working his way back towards a race. And don't get me wrong, on speed figures, he would be the very clear-cut second choice in here. But Bill Mott's not exactly known for bringing horses back firing off a long layoff. And I don't like that break in his works at all. It looked like he was working towards a race. He was entered once in a weird main track only on the turf, I think it was, but he wound up getting scratched. But I think that month gap long in his workouts between the August 15th work and the September 16th is pretty significant. And given that, it would be really out of ordinary for Bill Mott to have this one fully cranked up. I think this is probably more a prep for another race. Maybe he can run second on class alone, but at the short price, he's going to be, why bother? So I'm going to go with Shared Sense, as I said earlier, and try to get Tacitus out of the trifecta.
Yeah, it feels like that's the right strategy in this race. Tacitus, like you said, he's got prior performances that put him in the mix here. I mean, he was fourth in last year's Breeders' Cup Classic, but given all the questions about him, his preparation coming into this race, the fact that he's already missed some spots that he was supposed to run in this year, I think it's probably wise to take a wait-and-see approach with him. Personally, I went in a slightly different direction for a horse to use underneath Nick's Go. As we throw up our picks for this race, I put the number 5, Independence Hall, second. I like this horse turning back a little bit from 1.25 miles. Never really struck me as one that wants to go 10 furlongs, so I think getting back to 1 1/8 is going to suit him. He ran pretty well behind Nick's Go early in the year in the Pegasus World Cup when he was third in that race, and since then he's had some stops and starts, but now he's second off a layoff after competing in the Pacific Classic last time. I think with just a minor step forward, he could pick up the pieces and potentially be second in this race. So for me, if I was going to play this one, it would be a cold 2-5 exacta. I imagine, Craig, it's the same for you, trying to get shared sets underneath Nick's Go.
Yeah, the same for me. And maybe if Independence Hall drifted up a bit, if it's anywhere near that morning line, you know, it's possible the exacta would show a little value. But the one I want to avoid is the 3-horse Tacitus in the second spot, which will probably be lucky to pay even money, if that. And like I said, I just don't think he's firing. So trying to find some value in a race where it's probably not going to be found on the win end.
Post time for the Grade 3 Lucas Classic is 4:22 Eastern Time at Churchill Downs on Saturday, and all eyes will be on Nick's Go as he tries to cement his status as the likely favorite for the Breeders' Cup Classic in a few weeks. Both Craig and I not betting against him, but we'll try to get some prices in underneath in the exacta of this race. You can check out stakes previews of some other races from Churchill Downs, all the stakes from Belmont Park on DRF's YouTube channel from Brad Free, Mike Beard, Dan Illman, and Craig and I, who covered some weekend racing. So check out all of that as you subscribe to the Daily Racing Form channel. Thanks for tuning into this video, and good luck if you're playing on Saturday.